Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniela Mendoza, and I am the Storytelling Chair.
And my name is Asta Panigrahi, and I'm the Storytelling Mentor Coordinator.
And on behalf of all Changemaker, I'd like to welcome you to Ignite. For those that don't know, Changemaker is a student-led organization. Yay, woo! We plan events just like this one under 4 pillars: sustainability, entrepreneurship, innovation, and civic engagement. And tonight we will have 7 amazing speakers. So if you haven't done so, out of respect for the speakers, please silence your phone. And if you're tuning into the live stream, thank you. You don't have to do that, but it would be nice.
We'd like to warn some of our viewers that some of the topic today may be sensitive. If that is the case for you, we'd like to remind you that ASU does have counseling 24/7, and if there is an emergency need, you're welcome to contact either Michelle Linesmere or Jasmine Smalls. And now we have a land acknowledgement from Ms. Vaughn Garcia.
Yvonne Garcia. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Yvonne Garcia, and I'm representing the Akima O'odham. Arizona State University's campuses are situated on the homelands of many tribal nations, in particular the O'odham and the Pipash. We also acknowledge the many other indigenous communities who reside within this territory. Skigig is the O'odham word that is now known as Phoenix, which was settled in 1881 by occupiers. The ancestors of the O'odham, the Huhugam, created canals and utilized surrounding rivers that are the basis of the current irrigation system that feeds Skigig today. These waterways have always been the foundation and livelihood of the residents within the valley. Throughout the past 500 years, the impact of colonialism has been detrimental to indigenous lands and languages, affecting their livelihood. Many people who live in the Southwest are unaware of this history. Furthermore, ASU's indigenous student community consists of over 3,000 strong, and that's not including faculty, staff, and alumni who continue to thrive, educate, and advocate for the strengthening of indigenous ways of life. The O'odham call it Himdag, the way of life for the O'odham, encompassing their culture, traditions, identity, and being. As O'odham and all indigenous peoples, our identity is tied to the land. Like our own bodies, we must respect and care for it, and we urge everyone to do the same. We challenge you to educate yourself about the history and the communities who continue to thrive today. Moving forward, it is vital to honor and respect that you are always on indigenous land. It is important to note the unique relationship held between indigenous women and the land. Colonists brought ownership of land and people, pillaging the land while simultaneously violating our women. This is the legacy of the white man. Land is not something you own. It is something you care for and respect, just as you must care for and respect us as women. You would never disrespect your mother, so why disrespect Mother Nature? Our women today still struggle to overcome this precedent that was set in 1492, but we are strong and we are resilient, and we continue to not only survive, but thrive. Sapo, thank you.
I just have some quick reminders. If for some reason you need to leave us for whatever reason, please know that there's 2 exits, both left and right. If you need to use the restroom, well, the nearest restroom is in Hayden in the MU. And finally, and I'll remind you guys at the end, when we exit, we'll exit the back row, middle row, and last row. And for your safety, please keep your mask on at all times, because COVID. And with that, I'd like to welcome our first speaker.
Hello, everyone. I am Alexandra Novacek. I am a genderqueer pansexual with they, them, and she, her pronouns. Genderqueer is typically a term, but I use it as a label because on some days I have no gender and on other days I do. Now, I didn't start off with these labels. Instead, I started off with different ones and gradually made my way to my current day labels. They may change again in the future. We will see. Anyways, my first coming out story It isn't anything special other than fearing that my parents might disown me. My parents were and are mildly religious, and while they were always there for my track meets and my school events, I still had a minor fear of disownment. So with butterflies in my stomach, I sat down on the firm gray couch in our hotel room that we were staying at in Las Vegas over Thanksgiving break 2 years ago, and I told my parents I was bisexual. My mother laughed. She didn't think I was being serious. But eventually the realization that I was being quite serious sunk in, and my parents' posture softened, and they let me know that they loved me and accepted me just as I was. Now, I have come out multiple times since then, obviously, because I no longer identify as bisexual. And each time I have come out again, I have gotten 3 common reactions. The first, "Oh, I'm so happy for you." The second, "What is that label? Still happy for you, though." And the third, "But I thought you were," insert previous label here. Now, to be clear, labels are labels. They can be switched up and mixed out. They are fluid. They are who you are in that moment. So if you have a question about someone changing their labels, don't ask why they changed them, but ask if that label fits them better. That way you are not invalidating their existence. Now, learning labels can be tedious, especially if they don't impact your daily life. They are a lot of them, quite a lot. So if you have difficulties learning them, that's all right. It's okay. But I highly recommend sifting through the terms and labels regardless, because you never know when you might make someone smile because you took the time to step outside of the heterosexual and gender binary worlds to learn a little bit about queer terminology. Now, I didn't know what my labels were since day one, obviously, because I've come out multiple times. Instead, it has been a learning process. For example, a year ago, I didn't know that there was anything beyond the gender binary. I was sitting in my small 2-bedroom apartment, bundled up in blankets, because a snowstorm was raging outside. In my hands was an article on the gender binary that I was reading for my Women and Gender Studies class. It was the last semester of my undergraduate career, and the very first time I was hearing about anything beyond the gender binary. Now I am a graduate student in STEM at ASU, and I am completely out as a genderqueer pansexual. And yet, each time I have come out, it feels unnecessary. But if you think about it, when you come out, you're coming out from that which is normal. You are stepping outside of the heterosexual and gender binary worlds. You are rejecting the status quo, and that can be scary because that, once again, is not deemed normal. That's why it's called coming out. There are people both close and distant to me who stopped talking to me after I came out. There are people who ignore the fact that I use they, them pronouns. And there are people who ignore the fact that I'm queer. But I don't let them define me. I don't let them change me. Instead, I remember those who love and accept me for who I am. And remembering those people and focusing on that, I am able to remain, at least as of now, a proud genderqueer pansexual with they, them, and she, her pronouns. This is who I am. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Langerud, and to dive right into it, all of my life, I have tried so extremely hard to hide the one thing about myself that truly makes me who I am, my visual impairment. And while that takes a lot for me to stand up here today and say that, I have come to a place where I can confidently share that I am completely blind in one eye, which I wear a prosthetic in sometimes, as I'm not wearing it right now, and I have ongoing medical issues in my good seeing eye. And while I share that, and I've noticed that oftentimes there's a lot of confusion when I share my story and when I share my circumstances, and that oftentimes people don't understand the extent to which I may have gone through in order to get to where I am today. Yet I've come to find that that's a common pattern with people and stories nowadays is that when we see the current circumstance, the current state of someone or something, or we see the end result of something, we tend to forget or don't necessarily understand and realize the extent of the process that it took someone or something to get to that end state that we're seeing. Yet I've come to find that that process of what one may go through in order to get to that current state is the most important part. The part that people don't see is the most important part of our progress. And so, to share a little bit about myself and my story, freshman year of high school, I moved across country from coast to coast. I was living in Virginia, and I moved to Southern California. And I made a cheer team. I was on the field hockey team. I really just dove into it, wanted to get connected. And as about 5 months into my school year, I had to get emergency surgery on my good seeing eye. And so what I thought would be just a quick and easy surgery, I'll be back up in school that same week, ended up being a 2-month recovery process for me. So I was out of school for 2 months. I could barely see anything. It was in my good eye. There's a lot of circumstances and medical stuff. So I could barely see anything. And I had just moved to a new school, new state, high school, which is a whole new ballpark. And I was immediately thrown into a place of isolation. And while we're all used to the term and the idea of isolation by now, it looked different for me in that while I was isolated, the world around me was still going, was still moving. And so this made it really, really difficult. I thought I had made a community where I had moved to and made friends, but when it came down to it, I really only had my family and a few friends from Virginia there for me. And so because of this, I was in a really difficult circumstance. I was at a really low place in my life that I had never really experienced before, and I didn't really see the fruit or the benefit of what I was going through. I was lonely, I was isolated, I was confused, I was lost, I didn't really know myself. And so I remember part of that, maybe halfway through that recovery, and I thought to myself, I could either sit here and let this situation and my circumstances overtake me, or I can learn to embrace it and try and find the good in it and what it's teaching me. And so from that point, I was able to understand that what I'm going through is going to shape me, and is going to better me, and it has purpose, and it carries a healthy weight, and that as I stand here today and reflect back on that situation and what I thought was terrible circumstance in the moment, I see that I would not be where I am today, I would not be who I am today had I not experienced what I experienced back then and had that open mind. And so, concluding today, no matter how big or how small or how recent or how long ago our stories or difficult circumstances may be, they all carry a healthy and really important weight. And they all, if we allow our perspective and our mind to see that and embrace our place of pain and our place of difficult circumstances, then we'll then be able to really embrace our current self today. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lindsay Beagley. I am a triple ASU alum and Director of Lifelong University Engagement for Mirabella. Irrelevant. That is the word that my mother used to describe herself in retirement, right before she went on to get her third master's degree from ASU at the age of 69 years old. I got the chance to attend her thesis defense, which she did on a topic related to end-of-life issues. She felt compelled to explore that topic more deeply after having supported my grandmother through her death. And I listened as her thesis advisors remarked that they typically only see that level of academic sophistication at the doctoral level. And I marveled at how uniquely positioned she was to contribute to that area of scholarship, quite frankly, because of her age and not despite it. In the months leading up to her thesis defense, my family rented a cabin to get out of the summer heat. So imagine that I am running around the yard, chasing after my 2 kids, and sneaking in emails to my boss while I'm on vacation, while trying to manage my very rambunctious 2-year-old. Meanwhile, my mom is seated on the porch, peacefully consuming a stack of books and articles waist high. While I'm at the point in my life when I am stretched thin and overwhelmed and my thinking is distracted at best, my mother is at the point in her life when she can slow down and step back and begin to connect ideas that she has accumulated through her entire life. She now has both the capacity, the experience, and the time to tackle big, thorny intellectual questions at the depth that they warrant. They call this crystallized intelligence, and it actually increases as we get older. So why then do we allow the most experienced people in our society to feel irrelevant and become disconnected? Why do we chronically mischaracterize the last third of life as frail, fragile, dependent, and out of touch, effectively lumping together everybody from 65 all the way to 95, as if there are no meaningful milestones to celebrate in the last third of life? That's right, I keep saying it, the last third of life. Thanks to innovations in medicine and nutrition and healthcare, we are all living longer and healthier lives, 30 years longer, in fact, than we did a century ago. The World Health Organization just released a report that said that there are now more people over the age of 65 than under 5 for the first time in human history. And that trend is growing worldwide. We often talk about it as a silver tsunami, like it's an unpredictable catastrophe to prevent, instead of, perhaps, our most abundant natural resource that has been systematically growing for over a century and left underleveraged and untapped. We have to reimagine this stage of life in a way that better reflects our new, longer lifespans. How might we better recognize the unique contributions we could make at each distinct life stage? What could we accomplish as a society if institutions deliberately engaged the most experienced among us right when they have the time and the impulse to have an impact? ASU has done just that with this new kind of retirement community right here on the Tempe campus. It's called Mirabella at ASU, and it was designed based on the notion that a university should be able to meet the needs of learners throughout their life, and not just at one point in life. That learning doesn't stop, ever. So residents are encouraged to take classes, they're encouraged to engage with faculty, staff, and students in a way that may add layers of support to students who may need it. Remember that these are folks who had just emerged from very successful careers in the very industries that ASU students are preparing to enter. And so the possibilities for connecting generations and creating transformational impact are incalculable. Ageism is a bias against our future selves. And to be sure, I'm not at that life stage yet, but I will be one day, and so will you. And I want to look forward to it. I want to help imagine this life stage in a way that for people like my mother who are lifelong learners and perpetual makers and resilient future builders, that they are not only relevant, but deeply valued. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alejandra. I'm a transfer student from community college, and I'm currently a junior at Barrett City Honors College. Tonight, I would like to share my story to how I gained confidence by embracing my past. Confidence is not something you're born with, but it's a feeling you learn throughout life. Gaining self-confidence meant that I had trust in myself, and that is something I lost growing up. My past affected me mentally, emotionally, and how I communicated with others. But I had 3 heroes in my life that taught me that with confidence comes bravery to do the right thing. And those 3 instances have shaped me into the person I am today. I was born in San Diego, California, and a little over 2 weeks after I was born, my parents took me back to Tijuana. Tijuana is on the border between Mexico and the United States. Now, at 10 years old, I thought I had it great. I was going to this amazing school, had these incredible friends, and I just couldn't wait for the weekend so I can be with my mom's and my dad's side of the family. Every night, my dad would come into my room and lay down next to me and tell me how proud he was of me. He would tell me every day, always be yourself and never let anyone tell you how to be. Even when no one wants to follow your ideas, always stick to yourself. Little does he know that those words have actually stuck with me until this day. The spring of 2008, my maternal grandfather passed away after he became paralyzed. In December of that same year, my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister left our childhood home overnight. We left everything we've been building on, and we didn't look back. All because my dad attempted to do the right thing in saving his friend from getting kidnapped. Days after the incident, there was a car parked outside my dad's business. Another one parked outside our house. Eventually, someone was following us everywhere we went. At some point, my mom was held at gunpoint, and my siblings and I were practically on lockdown. December of 2008, I completely lost my sleep. I wasn't sure if I was going to wake up without a mom, a dad, a brother, or a sister. But I was so proud of my dad for attempting to do the right thing and saving his friend's life. I was even more proud of my mom, who I was just held at gunpoint, has lost her dad in 1 year. And through it all, she had a plan to how to escape us from Mexico overnight. The night that we left Mexico, my mom took us to a storage room in California where she has been taking all of her essentials from our home in Mexico and taking it there. If it wasn't for my Wonder Woman mom, I just don't know how I would have been here right now. Later on, we left to Prescott Valley, our new home, and that's where my dad's family lived. I was just so happy to be there and feel safe again, and so I thought. Summer going into 8th grade in 2011, my little sister walked into my room in a hot summer night, and she didn't seem well. She was crying, she was panicking. She said her chest was hurting and she couldn't breathe, and I asked her, what's wrong? Well, talk to me. She said that if she were to tell me what was going on with her, someone was going to hurt her. I told her, it's okay, you can talk to me. No one's going to hurt you. I'm here for you. I'm your sister. She told me that my favorite cousin, the person that I bring home every day, the person that I am always with, my favorite person, my best friend, has been sexually abusing her for some time now, since we arrived to Prescott Valley. She fell on her knees and told me, please believe me. I instantly went to my parents' room and I told them exactly what had just happened. That night I lost my sleep once again. The worst part of this was that my dad's family said that the 9-year-old girl provoked it, called her a slut, and denied everything. Not once we received support from them. That moment instantly changed me. I developed trust issues within myself and any single person that came around me. We immediately left Prescott Valley behind and we came to Phoenix. Now, I wish that what happened in Prescott Valley would fade away just like what happened in Mexico, but it didn't. At 13 years old, I cut off every single person out of my life who did not believe in my little sister. Because rape is real and it happens. I was so happy that my mom, my dad, and my brother and my sister were alive and we were safe. But we were mentally and emotionally damaged. It has taken me years to let go of the past so I can look forward to the future and enjoy the present, because unfortunately, life isn't planned. And there are people out there in the world who would rather do harm than do good. After my suicide attempt, I realized that replaying those awful moments in my life does not define me. Overthinking about the things that already happened is only holding me back from embracing what I want to do and do for the future. I learned to be confident. I learned to trust myself. And I learned to be brave, just like those 3 people in my life have taught me. Because I want to be able to advocate for my community, bring those resources and opportunities to others, because I cannot change what happened to my family, but I can help others heal, and I can help bring those resources to others. Just like I'm standing here today telling my story, I encourage you all to at some point do it too, because it is very important to take these feelings that we have inside of, these negative feelings, and change it into a positive action, because that's how we grow and learn as humans. Thank you.
Hey, I'm David. I'm a freshman here at ASU, and I love the beach. I mean, we're in Arizona. We don't really get to see stuff like that very often, right? We've got water, and it's cool and all, but our water doesn't have really cute animals and really good food and really cool boardwalks. Our water just isn't the Pacific Ocean. Now, if I'm gonna be honest, I really haven't been to the beach that many times. To be honest, I've only been a handful of times, but hear me out, right? Imagine you're on a beach. Really place yourself in that moment. See, as you're walking along this beach, let's say in San Diego, you could feel the sand underneath your feet. It's a kind of warm day, but there's still a cool breeze. In the distance, you could hear the palm trees swaying. The ocean sounds just as beautiful as it looks. You're content. This is peaceful. I mean, who in this situation would be stressing out? Well, let me add some more context. You're a little bit confused. See, the sand is starting to irritate your horribly blistered feet that you've hurt from countless hours of walking. You've been on this journey for a while, and to be honest, you're not quite sure where you're going. Actually, it's pretty hard to remember anything. You can't contact any friends or family. You're on your own. And soon enough, it's going to set in that you don't know where to get your next shower, your next change of clothes, your next meal, or even where you're going to sleep tonight. You're utterly and completely lost. There's a word for this. It's called being homeless. And my best friend found himself in this exact situation when he was just 18 years old. For background, substance abuse and mental illness can play a role in becoming homeless, and he was no exception. See, at this time, his mental struggles were undiagnosed and therefore untreated, and this can lead to a lot of struggles, and this can lead to a desperation, which can then cause self-medication, which in extreme cases can bring you to becoming homeless. This is how he found himself, alone, on the beaches of San Diego. Now, I love the beach, but I would not want to live on one. And I love my home, but I would not want it to be on the streets. So upon reuniting with him, I had some questions. I mean, in that state of confusion, how would you survive? He did the only thing that he saw fit. He panhandled. He begged every single day for basic necessities that we take for granted. These privileges that I described previously, a warm shower, a meal, clean clothes, a place to sleep, these were all things that he had to fight for every single day. Things changed in his second month of being homeless, however. See, a loving mother, but a complete stranger, took him into her home and cared for him. Despite the odds stacked against him, despite the state that he was in, despite not knowing this person, she loved him regardless, and it was for no other reason besides the kindness in her heart and this amazing act of generosity that we were able to get my best friend the help that he not only needed, but the care that he deserved. See, there's a saying that you could look at someone lacking in clothing and food and tell them to be warm and full, but if you do nothing about it, what good is that? That homeless person at the gas station, begging you for $1 so they could get their next meal, it's something we've all experienced. In fact, I believe it's something we all experience far too often, that we've become numb to it. We become used to it. We think it's normal because we forget that that's also another person. We forget that they have hopes and dreams and family and friends and that they also have goals. And I'm telling you right now, their goal is to not be in that position. See, we forget how easy it is that we could easily get in that same position as well. But that's not what anyone is meant for. And we forget that they have a future ahead of them. But most importantly, we forget that it can be the smallest acts that can have the biggest impacts in somebody's life. How one more meal, One more dollar, one more day, one more person is sometimes all it takes to change a person's life forever. Now, I know you understand that homelessness is an issue much more complex than surface level. I know you understand that substance abuse is an issue much more complex and meets the eye. I know you understand that substance abuse is an issue much more complex and meets the eye. So why are we able to look these people in the eye and tell them that we have nothing to give them? I'm not saying that you should bring someone into your home and care for them for months. I'm saying that there are already institutions like that put in place that help people in this situation. I'm not saying that you should put yourself in harm's way. What I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if you give $1, if you give one water bottle, or if you're able to give thousands of dollars and feed thousands of mouths, because every small victory is still a victory regardless of scale. If that's not enough, let my own best friend be a living testimony to the power that we have every single day to change someone's life forever. And think about how he would have ended up if he did not receive a single one of those countless acts of generosity from a complete stranger. Thank you.
Who am I? It's a question we've all asked ourselves before, but despite being alive on this planet for millions of years, humanity as a whole has still not managed to answer this question in its entirety. On the one hand, cover letters and icebreakers force us to condense our whole lives into just a few sentences that can be easily distributed to a larger audience. People don't have time to genuinely understand every single person they meet, and so we give them our carefully crafted elevator pitch that we've perfected over the years and have recited numerous times before. However, they force us to create one-dimensional characters of ourselves, and I think after doing this for so many times, we start to believe we truly are just those one-dimensional characters. They serve as chains to our old selves, locks to different versions of us, and prevent true transformational personal growth. My one overarching goal for 2021 has been to let go of this idea of who I am. Authenticity is a touchstone of my identity, and without it, I have no idea who I am. At the end of the day, who we are, how we identify ourselves, influences our daily lives and actions so much more than we realize. I like to think of myself as my identity as a painting, and the things I paint corresponding to the actions I take to achieve that personality. In my head, I am a painting of a girl sitting beneath a tree with a bird on her shoulder and reading a book and flowers all around. That is the painting I sell to the rest of the world. And while that's a fraction of who I am, that is now remotely the extent of who I am. I am more than just one painting, and this speech is just my attempt at showing a more complete picture of who I am. One day, a friend came up to me and asked about the scars on my arms. I wanted to tell this person so badly the truth. Tell them the truth that these scars were the conscious acts of my own two hands. The words were at the tip of my tongue, but once I did, my world would be upended. Or so I thought, and so I fumbled for the chords beneath my desk and instead ended up concocting a masterful lie of my clumsiness while running. It felt as if my rosy reality I had created to ward off the darkness had finally been penetrated by the harsh truth of reality. A few hours later, I hurt myself once more. I lay there in shock, not completely realizing what I'd done, but knowing that on the inside, I felt a little bit more at peace. The happy girl I had always known and shown the world peered from behind the clouds in my head, and I wanted to bring that girl out again. I wanted to hurt the girl who had hurt herself back inside. I was ashamed of the girl who was not happy all the time. She was the complete antithesis of the girl I felt most of the time, and I didn't want to be her. It wasn't until much later, after I'd witnessed wildfires ravage across my home state, a pandemic that upended the lives of millions, and an election that tested the soul of this nation, that I realized I had had enough. That, as I once wrote in a poem, I deserved to thrive, not just survive. And so, one night, with my mind at war with itself, I confided in a friend. And almost instantly, that burden I'd carried with me for almost 10 years felt a whole lot lighter. Suddenly, this amorphous darkness felt validated, and it was out in the open. And once it was out in the open, I was able to actually fight it. And thus, with an army of friends to support me, I finally had this courage to ask for the help I know I needed. You don't have to be just happy or sad or angry. You don't have to embody this singular emotion as your entire personality. Embrace the dichotomy of your personality and all the facets of who you are. I will feel bona fide happiness as I sprint up a mountain, pausing to take a selfie. But just as one end of this extreme exists, so does the other, the one where the smallest things can flip the switch in my head and my heart feels as if it's racing a million miles an hour, and not in a good way. The scars on my arms do not dictate who I am, not in the slightest, but they are a part of who I am. They're proof that the dichotomy of happiness and sadness can live side by side, often exchanging one for another in the span of mere seconds. They're proof that I am more than just this happy girl and that I am far from perfect. I don't ever want to turn into those one-dimensional characters I've written about in numerous application essays and talked about ad nauseum in interviews, and neither should you. So stop and smell the flowers and take selfies with flowers if you so wish, but know that it's okay not to be okay all the time. Know that your existence isn't defined by one emotion, but rather the words you speak and the actions you take. The first painting you show the world doesn't have to be the last. You got plenty of other paintings to show, so don't be afraid to show it. Because at the end of the day, that's all we can do. Be the truest version of ourselves while making the world just a little bit better. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Valenzuela, and tonight I'd like to talk to you all about Dr. Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin is an American research scientist who is considered the foremost figure on the topic of humane animal treatment, having researched, patented, and developed special handling systems for livestock. More importantly, she is also the foremost figure on the topic of autism awareness and activism. And it just so happens she is also a Sun Devil, having earned her master's in animal science right here at ASU back in 1975. But tonight, we're here to talk about another amazing autistic who just happens to be a Sun Devil. Me. I know, I can hardly compare myself to someone like Dr. Grandin, who is easily one of the greatest autistic minds the world has ever seen, and a role model for people like me. And truth be told, her and I have very different views of the disability we share. And even though I'm still just a young guy in college, I'd like to share with you my story up to this point. At age 3, I was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, which is a bunch of jargon for the doctors knew that I was on the autism spectrum, but they did not know where on the autism spectrum I was. And for me, what that looks like is that, I do things such as compulsive tapping, occasionally talking to myself, and missing social cues, which, yes, can have some seriously bad circumstances. But I'm not here to focus on my struggles tonight. I'm not here to tell you about all the friends that I did not make. I'm not here to tell you about all the weird, hyper-specific obsessions I would develop. And I'm not here to tell you about all the times that I came off as an asshole when really I just couldn't read the room or a person properly. At the same time, I am also not here to be a darling for the autism awareness movement. I am not here to be fetishized as a piece of the puzzle. Don't expect to see me at any autism walks. Don't put any donations in my name, and for the love of God, please don't put my name or face on any t-shirts, because I do not believe in autistic pride. I am proud that I have the ability to overcome this disability, not that I have to live with it. And if you think that all of my achievements somehow tie back to my disability, then you're wrong. And unfortunately, some people can't get over it. Tough. This is my story. And my story is about success. But how did I get to that success? Well, I'll tell you. I learned how to be successful right here on the stage, because I learned that I would have to be an actor for the rest of my life permanently. And every single day, I play a character, and that character is the exact same person as me. Him and I are exactly alike in every single aspect, but he does not have autism. He is wired normally, and he can understand all the things that I, being wired differently, cannot understand. And it is because of that that he can take on the world. As a matter of fact, he can do more than take on the world. He can Well, let's see. He can rattle off a Tennessee Williams monologue in an authentic Southern accent and win Best Drama Student of the Year, beating out every single high schooler he was up against while only being in 8th grade. He can win 3 Best Speaker awards in speech and debate tournaments for his rousing speeches where he stood up for what he believed in. And he can turn an outcast and a loner and a nobody with nothing to show for himself into a 3.84 student at the best public honors college in America, serving as an officer on 2 on-campus organizations, serving as an executive officer in the student government, with friends who love him, professors who respect him, and the world at his fingertips. That is what he can do. That is what I can do in spite of my disability. I'm proud of my achievements up to this point. I have a long way to go. And tonight, as best I can, I want to put my disability behind me. It's in the past. But even though I am putting my disability behind me, I still can't hope that someday we won't just be talking about the Dr. Grandins of the world, but we can also talk about the Mr. Valenzuelas of the world as well. Thank you.
Okay, but weren't our speakers amazing? So that comes to the end of our event, but I have some announcements. So before we end, I would just like to say that Changemaker is open to everyone. We have some amazing events coming up. Devils in Disguise is, wow, it's really windy, guys. Devils in Disguise is happening this month, so stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram, check us out on Facebook. All those events are there. Also, Earth Month events are coming up, so stay tuned.
And tonight, we hope that you are all inspired. The whole purpose of Ignite is for you to realize and to connect with the very community that you are all next to. Today, you heard 8 amazing speakers, and I bet you never knew they had that same story or something similar or a way you can relate or something very different. But now you know. And that's what we hope you get out of Ignite, to help you realize that this is your community and it's your time to shine. Stories like this are the way that we connect with the world and how we learn and grow from our mistakes and our revelations. So for tonight, I hope that we were able to ignite your passion. No? Okay. But yes, we hope that tonight was able to help you realize what you can do with the world, and hope to see your story soon.
Ignite applications will open in the fall again, so hopefully you all apply. If you feel like you don't have a story, that's absurd. Everyone has a story. And with that, thank you so much. Audience, if you guys can stay seated until I dismiss you. But thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.
Thank you for coming to Ignite.